Lovely to see you all. Beautiful to have you all with us. You know, it's such a beautiful thing to be able to come together in our busy lives, or at least it seems like we have busy lives, and just to take some time out to really look after yourself. And this is what tonight is about. Tonight is about looking after you. And there's so much that goes on, and there's so many circumstances and experiences, and sometimes painful, sometimes just boring, and sometimes confusing. And to take a bit of time out for yourself to recalibrate, to reconcentrate, to recenter is so vital. So vital. Today I went to the gym with an individual. I saw him there and I said to him, "Come, let's go, we're going to do a workout." And he said to me, he doesn't have time. He was at the gym, he was working at the gym. He said he doesn't have time. I said, "Come, half an hour. And, you know, we did a half an hour workout, and the energy that person had after, the vitality that person had after, it's immeasurable. Now the type of activities that he's engaging with, he's able to accomplish it momentarily. He's able to finish much quicker because he's vital. He's got vitality inside him, okay? So what we're going to do now is I want everyone to just position themselves a bit hard on these rocky chairs. But take a seat comfortably back. There's a unique energy outside and a different type of sound that generally we're used to. But allow yourself to become used to the sounds that are around you. And those sounds are still very peripheral, as most experiences in life are quite peripheral. But the purpose of the meditation that we're about to engage with is to bring ourselves deeper into our experience of life. So I want you to bring your attention to your breath. Hearing the sound of the air passing in and out. Feeling the sensation of your torso expanding and contracting. I want you to feel an energy in your hands. Feel the life and the vitality that's in your body. A place that we don't often inhabit. But bring your deep attention into your body and bring yourself completely into the present moment. Using your breath to stabilize, and your body as the anchor. Bring yourself deeper into the vitality that's inside of you. In order to do what we're doing, you need to let go of yourself completely. Let go of all the angst that's in your stomach. Let all of your muscles that are tense relax. Let the noise in your mind clear away and allow a deep and calm focus on the energy that's in your body and on your breath. Once you blink your eyes, with a deep breath, bring yourself and your attention back into the room. It's quite hard, especially with the noise outside. And it's a scary concept. I don't know if anyone else found it difficult to bring your awareness to yourself. Yeah? Did anyone find it easy? By the look of your faces, I'd assume not. What I want to discuss with you, I want to talk about with you, is the concept of happiness, the concept of joy. And when we try and understand how to feel joy in our lives, how to feel happiness in our lives, how to feel a sense of resonance in our lives, what do we need to do to feel that joy? What do we need to do to feel that life is something to embrace and something that we have joy within? What does joy mean? How do you find joy? Where is it found? So the term for happiness in Hebrew is the term simcha. Simcha is a term which denotes joy, happiness. And what I want to read to you is a verse. And the verse says, Sameach nefesh avdecha ki elecha Adonai nafshi esa. Which means, my soul is happy because I lift it up to you. Which means inherent in being a person that has happiness inside of you, part and parcel of being a person that has joy, there is a synonymous nature with your soul being lifted up. A state of lifting your soul up. What does that mean? How do you lift your soul up? How do you lift something from yourself up? So, Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch tells us that the term sameach, how do you have happiness? I want you to listen into his terminology. Simchas nefesh hitchushas hanefesh hamargisha atzma gadla umisracheves. The happiness of a person inside of you, joy is experienced when you have one thing that takes place. And you know what that is? When you feel like you're expanding. When you feel that something is expanding outside of you. So that may take place in a number of ways. So he says that the essential experience of expansion, which is something that we're trying to learn this evening, is ben emunasei lechoivasei, which is a crazy concept. He says that an understanding of one's obligation in this world, I don't know how that would be expansive, but at the moment he says that is ba'achnasa, a humbling of oneself, bi'irasa ba'avosa, with an awe and with love. These are experiences and these are forms of spiritual expansion which we're going to go into together. But on a basic level, where do we find experiences of expansion in our own lives? Where do we find experiences of joy in our own lives? So everyone sitting here, I'm sure, can think of circumstances of expansion. So what are examples of that? So making money is an expansion. It allows you to expand yourself and your influence. When you go and you purchase something or you buy something, You expand your home, you expand the things that you own. You expand your circle of influence in terms of your friends. These are all forms of expansion. Can anyone think of another form of expansion?
Wisdom, learning new stuff.
Wisdom, excellent. So there's a joy within learning something. When you learn, or you see, like, you know, they have these YouTube things of like 10 facts, you know, the 10 best facts, you know, you get like a geschmack, like a feeling of joy. I'm learning something new, something unique, something expanding me. Learning something new is a great feeling, isn't it? What else? What's something else that you feel a sense of expansion? Katja?
I think of like movement. Or
yes.
Like expanding physically in the sense of like moving forward or moving towards something better, more than, not necessarily in a material sense, but in terms of like motion. Motion
physically, or motion towards something, towards a goal? The second one, towards a goal?
Both.
Or both?
Yeah.
Okay, so motion, feelings of movement. You feel like you're traveling around, or you're conquering the earth in some way, that you're finding new things, or you're moving, you exercise. That's a feeling of expansion. You know, I did a workout, or you ran, or you did something, it makes you feel good. Why does it make you feel good? Because you expanded yourself to some capacity. You went beyond yourself. When a person's stagnant, on the other hand, that's archetypally an experience of depression. When you are completely immobile, there is an automatic depression that comes out from you or starts to fester inside of you. So expansion is innate and very necessary in everyone's life. The question is how we expand. And how do we expand in a healthy way? Because there are many problematic forms of expansion. And that is that a person may get into a state in their life where they feel that they're not expanding themselves. Things might not be doing so well in terms of their occupation, in terms of their relationships. They might not be so motivated in terms of their physical movement. They might be very stagnant. Where do you think expansion starts to take place in that person's life? What do you guys think? Guy?
I would say when you look for, it's a bit hard for me to answer.
Yeah, it's a hard question.
It's a hard question. I think it's constantly asking the question. What
can I do to expand?
Yeah, what can I do? Ideally for me, let's say right now you put something for, making money, or that. For me, it's not. It's not something that I'm looking right now to develop a hobby, for instance, or just to meet some new people or anything like that. This is something that looking for it, it's quite hard, but still asking those questions all the time. Things that I'm scared of, or things that you said before. That you may be, standing in the same place and just going into some sort of depression, or just afraid of doing things or anything like that. This is some sort of liot takova makom, or
So let me ask a question to everyone.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Guy. Does anyone ever get an experience or a feeling when you're not being productive and you don't know what to do to be more productive, and you're just sitting there? Do you get a feeling of anxiety inside of you when you're actually not moving? And you always say to yourself, why can't I just be still and enjoy my life? It's almost like you have to do something in order to feel a sense of distraction or movement. But if, God forbid, you had nothing productive to do, which means you can't go to the gym, you can't make money, you can't work on your education, you can't galvanize new relationships or expand your presentation of self on Facebook or whatever other social media format that you want to engage with, but you just are, you're just there by yourself with nothing else. Do you feel a sense of, I want to break out of that? I don't feel comfortable. Yeah? What do you say, Taryn? You feel like that sometimes? Yeah?
Get restless.
You get restless.
Yeah.
Why is that?
So you're always on the quest to do that. You don't want to waste your time doing nothing.
Why not?
Because it's unproductive.
But being on Facebook and like putting things out, or like even going to the gym, that's quite productive. I know we tell ourselves it's very productive. But like, let's say I just miss one day. I miss one day. Is it so bad? Am I like, if I miss one day and I had 2 hours to go to the gym and I didn't go to the gym, I'd kill myself, you know? How could you not do something that you could have done in that moment, and I had 2 hours which I just killed? I feel like horrible. I feel like a real sense of loss of self. I feel like I'm depleted. I don't even know where I am. Do you ever feel like that? So we love expanding. In fact, if Freud was to say what motivates humanity is sexuality, which in a certain extent we're going to discuss how this fits into expansion. Maybe you can already try and understand how that fits in. But if what motivates humanity is to try and find themselves in methods of expansion, acts of expansion, learning, movement, things that we tell ourselves are expanding ourselves, money, relationships, all of these things. But the danger of that is that if we have no solid infrastructure of self underlying any forms of expansion, you are always in a state of angst. You are always in a state of questing, and God forbid, when something doesn't go the way that you wanted to expand it, and the way that you wanted to expand, you lose yourself. You're not there anymore. That's a scary place to be in. And only that, the pressure that we place on expanding becomes something which becomes very detrimental generally. And where we speak about sexuality, expansion within a person's relationships, where do you see that taking place? Can anyone bridge those two concepts of relationships, love? Adam, what do you say there?
About relationship.
I mean, you have to be in your best behavior because your girlfriend's here, but yeah.
Well, I feel like if is this sort of touching on the whole restlessness thing?
Yes.
It is, right? Well, I feel like it's kind of like two wrongs make a right. If you're both together but you're not moving, you're doing it together, so it makes it feel okay.
Okay.
And that's how I interpret that.
Okay. Where else do you see relationships taking place? Where a person feels a sense of stagnation, a person feels a sense of non-expansion. So let's understand the following. Okay, these are questions we need to deal with. And the purpose of tonight is going to try and create a balance of expansion in our lives, that we don't have that feeling and immense frustration and pain when we're not seemingly expanding the way that we want to expand. We're going to try and alleviate the pressure that we place on ourselves to expand, because at the moment it's unhealthy. At the moment it's creating too much angst, too much depression, too much fear. So what do we need to do in order to alleviate the pressure? So there's a Kabbalistic concept. I'm going to read it for you in the Gemara because I think it's important to engage with this medium. So there's a verse found in the Gemara, written 2,000 years ago. Not this verse, the Gemara was written 2,000 years ago, but the verse comes from the Torah. And it says, from one end of the heavens to the other. And the Gemara questions, what is the value of this verse, from one end of the heavens to the other? And Rabbi Elazar taught that this verse comes to teach us something very significant. It comes to teach us that Adam HaRishon, the first man to ever live, that his height was from the ground to the skies. That's what the Gemara says. And when he sinned, God placed his hand upon him and diminished him, shrunk him. So his height was from the ground to the skies. Comes along another opinion, Rabbi Yehuda, and says it in the name of Rav. And he says, no, this verse comes to teach us something else. It comes to teach us that Adam HaRishon, man's dimensions, was from one end of the world to the other. And he said that God put his hands on Adam HaRishon and stopped him from expanding in that state. Comes along the end of the Gemara and says, make up your mind. If so, the verses contradict one another. The verses contradict one another. What does that mean? I won't tell you the answer to the Gemara. But what is found inside of here is the dimensions of your existence. Which means that you are a person that is a seeker, you are a person that innately wants to expand. That's something that you have inside of you. God put it into our essence. But you have two dimensions of expansion. You have the dimension of expansion from the earth to the heavens, and you have the dimension of expansion from one part of the earth to the other. What that means is as follows: that the dimension of expansion in the horizontal platform, which is from one end of the earth to the other, are experiences of expansion in your life which are earthly. Earthly experiences are associated with your ego. So the things that your ego likes to expand into, some examples of that we've already mentioned: sexuality, the usurping of another individual, power, money, travel, culinary experiences, tasting new food. There's endless experiences of what you can taste. I mean, it's insane. The industries that are based on the experience of food, clothing, buying things, shopping, are experiences of expansion, because what you're doing is you're amassing and you're expanding, not necessarily physically. We're trying to get thinner, aren't we, with our exercise? But even exercise, I'm going to speak about exercise at the end because it's a tricky one. Okay, it's going to be a very important discussion about exercise. But we love to expand horizontally. And the crazy thing is, all we know essentially is horizontal expansion. We have glimmers of vertical expansion, which is the dimension or the axes of the ground to the heavens. We're going to speak about what that is and how to integrate that somehow into our lives. But the scary thing is as follows: that these two axes of expansion contradict one another. Which means essentially, the more you are a person that expands horizontally, the less propensity you have to expand vertically. So if you're a person that is traveling non-stop, busy with work, just making money and endlessly experiencing things in this world without any boundary, you will find it very difficult to expand vertically. On the other hand, a person that has a healthy integration of vertical expansion removes the pressure that they place onto life to expand horizontally. When you have a healthy vertical expansion, when you're not expanding the way, you're happy. It doesn't really affect you. You don't feel like you need to burst out of something, that you feel frustrated. A crazy concept there is it says that the way of the Torah is that you eat bread dipped in salt, you drink water, and you sleep on the floor. Sounds like a bit how you live there, Adam. Like, you could see you like living. Adam has this like very nice bachelor pad. Everything's very modern. You could see you have like a futon on the futon, you know, a nice little mattress on the floor. It'd be like pretty cool. I could live. I would like it. Sarah? Bread, water, salt. Not even a futon, floor. And when we think about it, it's not very romantic, it's not very attractive to live that way, is it? You don't want to live like that. We like food, we like clothes, we like nice beds, we like experiences. And essentially what it means that the way of the Torah is bread and water is to tell us that you don't need anything more than bread and water. You can have as much as you want. But essentially what you need to fill yourself is there. Now anything above bread and water is a plus. Anything that you now experience beyond sleeping on the floor and bread and water, it's a gift. Wow, what an amazing thing. Because I'm full already internally. But when we're starving inside of ourselves, when we are mamish starving for expansion because we are so endlessly. You see, if you understand what it means that the expansion horizontally is the extent of one place of the earth to the other, the earth is round. So essentially, what does the expansion look like?
Never ends.
It never ends. You're chasing your tail. So no, just I go on this holiday and everything. You know, it's like the Netflix phenomenon that you've like watched 12 episodes and then the next one is coming up in 5 seconds. You're like, should I watch? I've just watched 12 episodes. You know, your eyes are like bleeding because they're just like, you know, from the watching, and you're like, all right, one more, you know, and it's never enough. Why is it never enough? And you've watched 20 episodes now, and you're just like feeling like, where am I? What have I actually gotten from that? Apart from distracting yourself for 10 hours. But you haven't really given yourself anything, have you? So these are all unhealthy modes of expansion. Unhealthy modes of expansion are found very much in addictions. When people become addicted to pornography, addicted to drugs, addicted to experiences, you understand that they are not in touch with this internal form of expansion, which we're going to learn tonight. Are there any questions up until now? You see, drugs, and I think sexuality as well. I mean, there is a brothel just outside, just for those that want to know. Yeah. So now, these forms of expansion give a person a false sense of expanding beyond themselves. Drugs, for example, alcohol, give you an experience of getting high, but what's the sense of being high? It's outside of you. You're outside of yourself. Taking another person and using that as a relationship to consume, because you yourself don't have a fullness of expansion, is where now relationships go into a strife, into an experience of unhealthy engagement, where you need the other person to either be your right-hand man or left-hand woman or whatever it is to look at me expanding, or it's an experience of I need to consume whatever it is that you have. These are relationships that are very unhealthy. the Gemara answers that the dimensions that we're talking about here, it says that there's no contradiction. They're the same thing. They're the same thing. Which means inside of you, if you use that fuel and you allow it to leak out into the horizontal, you don't have enough jet fuel to get up in terms of your vertical expansion. And vice versa. Okay, so what does this mean? Let's try and understand how to bring this into our lives. Before we do, I just want to wake you up with a few very intense sources. Are you ready? Are you guys ready? Brace yourselves. There are two sources in the Gemara which I want to unpack with you just to understand the extent of what it means to be a person that has no vertical expansion. It says that there are two individuals that still sit in Gehenna, which is hell. We have to understand what that means as well. And it says that their forms of punishment and suffering is that one of them is boiling. It says that they boil. One boils in a vat of semen, and another one boils in a vat of excrement. Delicious, yeah? Very beautiful concepts. You look very enlightened. What does that mean? I mean, these are crazy things to say. Can you not think of anything else morbid and disgusting? You have to talk about boiling vats of semen and excrement. It's crazy, Binyamin.
Yeah. Who were those people again?
I'll give you the name of one of them. One of them is Bilam. It says Bilam was boiling in a vat of semen. There's another individual which we won't name that is boiling in the other vat. Which one would you choose there, Chaim? If you had a choice. No, I'm joking.
Let's not get philosophical.
Yeah, we can't get too philosophical, that's right. What does that mean? So I'll tell you what the Zohar says. The deeper Kabbalistic works say the following. What it means to be boiling in a vat of semen is that the sexual frustration that a person has in a state of needing that to expand, the state of being completely addicted to that framework of expansion and endlessly feeling that there's a bottomless pit, is the experience of being boiled in that form of existence. That you are never able to satiate that state of expansion. That it's a continuous feeling that you need to expand within that framework. And many people live their lives that way. Obviously, teenagers, that's what they spend the majority of their living life thinking about and engaging with. And many grown individuals as well form these addictions of negativity within an unhealthy form of living. What does it mean to be boiled in a vat of excrement? So excretion, if we understand, is the removal of food which has no nutritious substance, while the body has already integrated the nutritious substances of the food that's already there. So essentially what excretion represents are all the externalities of life which don't have any substance, which we tell ourselves, a bit of that, a bit of that, a bit of that, a bit of that. But it doesn't actually have any vitality inside of it. We already gave a few examples of that. And it means that you're boiled in that reality. You are boiled in that reality. So how do we alleviate all of this? I mean, this is all doomsday and very intense stuff. I'm sure this resonates. I hope it resonates. But I think this pain is something that's very much felt in humanity today. We're trying to find an answer for this. But we speed up our forms of expansion instead of dealing with the other forms of expansion. Anyone want to say anything? You're alive? Semi-alive? Is this... Yes, Katja.
Question.
Yeah.
So like the modern day, right, and in general capitalist societies, you're inundated with direct and subliminal messaging about lack thereof. And I actually spoke about it in our Shabbaton, like, you're always aware of what you're lacking or what you don't have, what you're not achieving. So you're speaking about that fluid that you sort of, if you expend it laterally or horizontally, you don't have much to give vertically. So how do you conserve and preserve that energy to explore the things that are like sort of vertical and for the greater good, and more important, when you're inundated with so much messaging about how much you're lacking all the time, whether you're looking on Instagram or whether you're at work or if you're chatting with friends or whatever the case may be, there's always a lack thereof.
Yes.
And so how do you preserve your energy, your time, and your spiritual force to pursue the things that are right and more beneficial to the soul?
Good question. So the archetypal approach, and I'm going to just give you the equation and then we'll try and understand how it's practical. The archetypal approach is sur merav asetov, which means that you create boundaries of problematic expansion and then you engage with positive expansion. The difficulty is that we are so weak in our vertical expansion, we almost don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. It's not providing enough for us. And to then be able to put up boundaries in the horizontal is even more painful because we're not getting anything. We're not vertically expanding, and then to put a boundary here as well, I feel like really messed up. So the direction which is very much what our society needs now is to slowly start with the reintegrating vertical expansion, which we'll try and give some examples of. And then integrating these boundaries of horizontal expansion. Just parenthetically, we have to understand that where there are boundaries from a spiritual format in our lives, where we talk about the terms of kashrut or the concepts of how much you or what you can do physically with the opposite gender, or when you're not married or whatever it is, or what a person is able to look at. What are you allowed to look at? There are boundaries. There are frameworks of life, of living, which spiritually, from our understanding, the Torah comes along and says, these are the parameters of generalized, healthy physical expansion. So, yes, you can't eat anywhere you want to eat. You can't consume everything you want to consume. You have these people that travel to Vietnam to eat tarantulas, with like sweet and sour fried tarantula type of things, Or you have people that need to try all these crazy concepts, crazy experiences. So there are healthy boundaries, and that's essentially how we look at the boundaries that the Torah places around us and in our lives. But that's not the point. It's not about the boundaries. The boundaries are there to just allow you to conserve your energy for the essential vertical expansion. The crazy thing is that people make it all about the boundaries. So what does it mean to be religious? What it means to be spiritual in Judaism is about the boundaries you keep. So you don't eat that, you can't do that in Shabbos, you can't do whatever you want to do with that person, etc., etc. Well, why do I want that? My life's all about expansion, so let me do what I want to do. But if you understand essentially the whole purpose of those boundaries are just to provide you with an ability to conserve that fuel to then healthily expand this way and then healthily be able to expand that way. Now we understand the purpose. So there innately are things in your life, and then you have to see where are you unhealthily expanding. So if it's with Netflix, then this is an amount of time that I need to establish for myself. And you question. Someone came to me and they asked me that they were involved in a very problematic relationship. Something very problematic. They did something behind someone's back and they cheated on someone and it was just hectic and they felt so guilty about it. What's the Torah's approach? So like you would imagine that you need to go and like, dip yourself in a mikvah 20 times and you need to like suffer and you need to fast. But what I said to him was, you need to understand what's lacking inside of you that caused you to want to do this. You know, and you knew while you were doing it that was morally wrong. Why did you feel such a necessity to expand in such a way, an unhealthy way, which you yourself are saying is unhealthy, that's so detrimental to you and every relationship around you? What's lacking inside of you? Where is there a lacking of internality inside of you that you felt so unhealthy, that you felt so hungry for a state of expansion? That's the healthy question to ask. Not about feeling guilty, oh, I'm so bad, I did such bad things, I have to suffer, and the more guilt I feel, the better I am, more spiritual, and repentance will come from that. It's not what it's about. True repentance is returning to the inner self, the deeper self. I want to read you a verse, and this will help you to understand. There's a verse that we recite about the angels, and we say about the angels, and we say this every Shabbos on Saturday morning, which essentially Shabbos is all about expansion. Shabbos is the archetypal day of vertical expansion. That's why there are so many limitations on the horizontal framework. Even with meditation, which is a form of vertical expansion, we have to almost close our eyes. We can't have too much noise because they're already expanding horizontally. We can't go up. So we almost have to limit the expansion horizontally, otherwise you can't get liftoff. That's why I said to you, it's a little bit difficult to expand tonight with the cars and the noise and the music and whatever it is, the different environment and maybe all of the stress of the day. But the verse says, Smeichim b'tseisam v'sasim b'voyam, which means the angels are happy with their exiting, with their going out, and joyful with their coming in. Which means for a healthy lifestyle, a healthy state of being, you need a combination of joy in your expansion horizontally and happiness with your coming in. Now this is a very important point, what I'm about to say. When we think about vertical expansion, it's not about coming to the heavens. Do you know where the heavens are?
Below.
Closer to above. Yes. It's all within you. It's inside of you. The dimension of the vertical platform of expansion is essentially inside of you. It's not above you or outside. You don't have to get outside of yourself in order to experience the vertical expansion. It's essentially inside of you. All we're doing is taking off the shell that's stopping us from getting there. But it's inside of you. What I want you to do now, and we'll have a short experience of what this means. I want you to bring yourself back to the vitality and the energy that you have in your body. Try as much as you can to understand that the noise around you and the thoughts that are around you and the anxieties that are around you aren't you. Identify what is there. Identify, yes, there's noise, there's feelings, there's whatever there is, but then just put that aside. And understand that the opportunity for what you're about to experience is much more important than the irrelevant noise that's outside and the irrelevant noise that's in your head. It's irrelevant. It's inconsequential. Bring your awareness to your breath. With the noise that's around you, you need to deeply feel the energy that's in your body. I want you to feel yourself and feel the noise and feel the energy and dissolve one another into each other. Don't see yourself as separate to the noise. Don't see the noise separate to you. Feel yourself as if you're one. One with the chair that you're on. One with the air that you're breathing. One with the noise that's around you. One with the sensations of heat or cold. One with your breath. I want you to feel or sense a stillness, a state of nothingness. Can you sense it in between the words that I'm saying? Can you sense it in between the thoughts that you're thinking? If you have a sense of that nothingness, that stillness, allow yourself to connect with it. Allow yourself to dissolve into it. Blink your eyes and bring your awareness back to the room. It's quite an interesting thing. I think that alcohol does affect a little bit your state of expansion. I think that one of the most fundamental forms or tools that you need is your mind. And what drugs and alcohol essentially do, maybe alcohol, is it dims and dulls your mind to the extent that you almost lose a state of consciousness. You lose your consciousness. So essentially that you lost your consciousness, you're a little bit more conscious than you were before, that your mind was going mad. So you're a little bit more present. But it's at the detriment of not being able to go beyond. So I'm not sure if you felt a little bit of that silence, a little bit of that expansiveness. I did a meditation this morning and we heard the birds chirping and the silence around us, and it was just, you become completely enveloped. It's almost like you're floating around in this nothingness, this oneness that's there. So to bring ourselves back, I'll bring you one final source, and then we'll see if there's any questions that you want to engage with and see how to make this practical. But there's a source that discusses here it is. The Gemara relates, one day Rabbi Yochanan was bathing the Jordan. Rabbi Yochanan was a very big rabbi and he was bathing the Jordan River. Reish Lakish saw him and jumped into the Jordan, pursuing him. At that time, Reish Lakish was the leader of a band of marauders. Rabbi Yochanan said to Reish Lakish, "Your strength is fit for Torah study." Reish Lakish said to him, "Your beauty is fit for women." So Rabbi Yochanan was the most beautiful man. It says that if you took a new beautiful shining goblet and you filled it with pomegranates and then you sprinkled rose petals on top of it and you left it just in the middle between the shadow and the sun, the shade and the sunlight, that was the appearance of Rabbi Yochanan. I have no idea what that means. But that's what it says. Beautiful man, beautiful man.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah. So he says to him, so Reish Lakish is this mafioso, they say he was a gladiator. And he says to him, Rabbi Yochanan says to Reish Lakish, if you return to the pursuit of Torah, I will give you my sister in marriage, who is more beautiful than I am. Reish Lakish accepted upon himself to study Torah. This is the important part. Subsequently, Reish Lakish wanted to jump back out of the river to bring back his clothes, but he was unable to return, as he had lost his physical strength as soon as he accepted the responsibility to study Torah upon himself. What that means is that essentially the engagement with spiritual activity, the form of learning, simply sitting down to learn Torah, when it's done for the right reasons, what the right reasons are not, the wrong reasons, is when you are doing it religiously. When you're doing it to fill a box, tick a box and say, look, I'm a good person because God believes in me and God's so proud of me and God's so happy with me. That's the wrong reason. Okay? It's definitely on the ladder of reasonings in terms of the evolution of the ego. But the essential reasoning that's behind engaging with spiritual activities is that it's the most silent form of expansion. It is the vertical expansion. Why? Because your ego isn't there. Meditation or forms of expansion within the spiritual framework, such as learning Torah or the mitzvot that a person engages with, are gateways. They are avenues for you to access your vertical stillness and expansion that's there when it's done for the right reasons. And I will confess and agree that the majority and the huge amount of humanity that engage with religiosity do it from egoic purposes. And it's almost self-defeating. So you see religious people who are still anxious, who are still really abrasive, who can't exist in this world. They don't resonate with this world because they've just replaced one ego for the other. So essentially what happened here is Rav Yochanan and Reish Lakish engaged with this conversation. Reish Lakish, by the simple decision to engage with vertical expansion, by the simple framework of saying, I want vertical expansion in my life. What does that look like? It looks like being involved in circumstances where I can be still, not do anything, but feel the vitality that's inside of me and leave myself to the nothingness that's in the world. Because essentially the nothingness is everything. The nothingness is everything. The nothingness is the godliness that surrounds us. It's the expansive universe that's there. By being able to stop, let yourself dissolve into that. Have moments of meditation when you're not thinking about anything. Have still moments in your life of prayer. Have still moments in your life of chesed, which means kindness. An activity of giving is an act of stillness when it's done not from an egoic state. These are all vertical states of expansion. If we don't find ways of integrating these things, then we find that we place too much pressure on the horizontal. I told you we'll speak about exercise, and we'll conclude with this. But exercise is a very unique state of expansion, because essentially you are horizontally expanding, but what you're doing is you're reaching states inside of yourself where your body's saying, no more, I'm in pain, I don't want to do this anymore. And in order to continue, you need to rise above beyond the pain. So I don't know what you're doing on the treadmill, or if you're running, or you're doing weights, and you're pushing yourself beyond that circumstance. By going above and beyond, you're essentially expanding as a person. You're vertically expanding beyond yourself into the deeper state that you are. So one of the most vital spiritual activities is exercise. A person that is not exercising regularly and having that vitality that's coming into their life finds it very difficult to start to expand in other frameworks. Finds it very difficult to be still. You know, after you exercise, you feel much more still. The frustrations that are inside of you are alleviated to a degree because you experience some expansion. But it's not enough. And you see how people have become addicted to exercise because it's their only form of vertical expansion. What needs to start to be integrated within that lifestyle is spiritual expansion, is internal vertical expansion, which looks like one thing: leaving the ego, letting go and diminishing the ego, and engaging with a deeper state of the vitality that's in your body, your breath, the nothingness, the stillness of activity that's found within Torah and mitzvahs, which is that stillness that comes from God, which is a stillness of nothingness. That's what it is, essentially. It is aiding you to expand within that framework. These are the axes of expansion. There are many more concepts to be discussed around it, but that's the basic framework. Do you have any questions?
How do you must understand something. I think in our in the Y generation, millennials and everything, when all the noises like you mentioned before, I mean, I think it was a brilliant also question. Having those noises all the time in their head, all the time. So when you want to extend, I mean, spiritually, like vertically, like you said, it's almost. I feel like for me, ideally, you mentioned, we met many times at the gym or anything like that, but me constantly, also, even there, this used to be my safe zone. All my life I did sports and anything like that. I've been practicing track and field 4 hours, and 2 times a day almost. And then taking it right now, I'm suffering. Why I'm suffering? Because even there, I cannot disconnect from my phone. I'm in retail, so every day for me, constantly, every day, it's a day of, okay, they did this, did they do this, I have to follow, I'm like the big brother, I have cameras and everything, I cannot, disconnect myself. Other than also, just like, I know it's a big picture, but also, disconnecting yourself from, I try to give myself borders,
Yes.
like that, like you mentioned before. So not having Instagram app on my phone, but eventually you trick yourself and you go from the Safari or whatever is in the phone, from the Google Drive. So I do believe that sometimes what I found with myself, and I wanted to also mention it there, extending horizontally, like when you look at it like that, it's maybe. When I found myself that kind of like tricked me is give myself boundaries, but not like basically cut it off.
100%. Yes.
Understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So not just cutting it off and everything. So you just do it step by step. So I judge myself at the end. Let's say I'm going to practice and everything. If I put my phone on the side, it was just it was a start. So having the program on my phone made me basically also, just unfocus on what actually I need to do. And I think it's the highest point. What you're saying, it's basically also when you meditate or anything, it's basically the highest point you can reach. Even when I used to do yoga, they mentioned the drills and everything is fine, but the highest point you can reach is to get to a point that basically you clear everything. You meditate, and this is for them, I think, the highest.
And the same for us. 100%.
Also, yeah. But
so I think to I completely identify and understand what you're saying. And I think what's important to do is not to be too abrasive. So to cut things doesn't work. To say you're never watching Netflix again is not going to work. To say you're never going to do something that you think is, it's not going to work. When you're doing it, say, oh, look at me. I'm needing to expand horizontally. Wow. Why is there such a need to expand horizontally? What's going on? Not in a guilty way. Just observe. Observe yourself. What's going on? Why am I not bad? This is bad. Okay, let's see what's going on here. And notice that you're not the expansion. It's not you that's expanding. You're here observing. The ego wants you to expand. It's hungry. It needs to eat. Okay? What's underneath the ego? What time are you making? Maybe it's when you get into the car. Instead of quickly putting the keys on, switching on the car, and driving off. Sit. 20 seconds. Don't do anything. And just be there. And listen to the stillness that's there. Listen to the beauty of life that's pulsating inside of you and all around you. Essentially, you're not your business. You're not your workers. You're not even your appearance. You're much more deeper than that. There's an underlying being that's there. The more you become intimately relating and identifying with that being, you'll automatically see that you have less of a need to look at your phone every second. Less of a need, and you almost get a feeling of pain when something doesn't go your way, like an email or a this or a message. Oh, I'm in pain. Why am I in pain? Because this is me, and me has just been bruised. No. That's just the ego wanting to expand. I'll feed it. I know that it needs to expand. I'll give it what it needs, but it's not me. The primary me is underneath that. So my answer to you is be aware. Number one, just be aware. Identify. Whoa, I'm thinking so much. Whoa, I'm so driven to look at my phone every second. I can't even, I'm like lifting one weight while I'm looking at my phone,
It happened.
It happened, yeah, I'm sure it happened. Whoa, what's going on? Instead of saying, oh, I need to be on my phone, that's where I am. This is me. No, that's not you. Okay, you need to watch a Netflix. All right, so you say to yourself, I need to expand horizontally. I know it's going to get me nowhere. Sometimes you need to jumpstart your car. You know what that means? Sometimes you need a jumpstart. Sometimes you need an artificial form of expansion to get you moving. Even vertically, sometimes you need an artificial. So sometimes if you're really low, oh no, we learned about vertical expansion. I need to sit here and meditate, put my feet up and then start meditating. It's not going to help you sometimes. Sometimes you're so low, you need to go buy something new. Sometimes you're so low, you need to get some nice food and look after yourself. And that's understanding that your ego exists. It's there. But it's not you. It's secondary to you. It's not primary. Feed it like you feed your dog. And then once you slowly start to integrate a proper understanding of who you are, that stillness that's there that you can develop, it's a muscle that you develop. So when you wake up in the morning, what activities do you do initially? Do you straight away go onto your phone? Like from one eye hasn't even opened yet. The other one's open, one eye still asleep. What's going on, You can't, you don't even have any eyes open, you already got your phone out, What is it? Instead of doing that, maybe look at a few messages, which I know you are going to, so you're not going to stop it, because I do as well. So, put it down after you look at those messages, and then pull yourself away from your ego for 5 minutes, and go and sit down, maybe read something. Learn something. That's a form of vertical expansion, learning. Obviously, it's still egoic if it's about more information. If it's simply still information, which is Torah, or spiritual forms of learning, that is about releasing the ego and just expanding vertically. 5 minutes. And then after you're learning, maybe a prayer for people around you that need help. people that are starving, people that are in your own life, maybe just, someone outside of you. Pray. Do some form of activity. Meditate. These are all forms. 5 minutes. And at least you've breathed. At least you've felt you've fed your primary self. You'll see the most different day take place. You'll see that your day is not so much constantly every moment in angst. What next do I need to do? And now that I'm not doing anything, I need to either be on my phone or do the next thing until I go to sleep, and then I have to wake up. And then the same thing again. When's it going to stop? Tell me, when is it going to stop? How much money do you have to make? How many degrees do you have to get? How many kids do you have to have? How many houses do you have to have until you can stop? Can you give me an answer? Not really, because it's never going to stop. Never ending.
Yeah, it's a retro, like you said.
It's around and around and around and around.
I think it will stop when you look at the bread and the salt.
But the bread and salt comes from this.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that we don't want you to enjoy this world. We want you to enjoy this world. But relate to the world, don't identify with the world. That's the difference. Enjoy your exercise, enjoy your traveling, enjoy your relationships, enjoy your eating, enjoy your Netflix. But don't do it from an unhealthy state of expanding horizontally. You're full inside. Let me see this interesting thing. Let me eat this food. Okay, I'll feed the ego, whatever, and I'll enjoy it. And maybe you'll even get to a deeper spiritual level where you'll see that that's not even, it's the same measure. You'll even get to a spiritual level, and you can get to this, where you'll even be able to see in the horizontal that it's also vertical. That even in the physical, even when you're eating, it's vertical expansion. You'll be even able to get to such a level. Imagine what life looks like then. Imagine what life looks like then. It's amazing. Okay, these are all levels, yeah?
It's just so hard because it's so intertwined. Like, even if you think you know what is you and what is you,
yes,
it's still so intertwined. Like, I went and I did this experience the other day, and it was basically called equine therapy, and it's like you do therapy with horses.
Wow.
And it was so interesting. So you do these so obviously we all think that we know ourselves because we all know ourselves better than anyone else. But then you do these activities with horses, and horses are they don't speak, they only feel, and our real us, inside of us, only feels that doesn't speak. But our not us, or how you calling it ego, is such a speaker. So it gets all entwined, and you try find the difference between who is me, how do I hear, how do I listen to who is me, and how do I know when it's not me speaking, and it's actually just the other me speaking who actually isn't me. So you do these exercises, and based on how the horses respond to you, the teacher knows how the horse.
Wow.
I can tell you more about it, but
should bring a horse in here. That'll be amazing.
The teacher basically says do one activity with the horse and see how they respond. Then you do another activity to change the dynamic, and then you do it again, and you see the difference in the horse's behavior, not yours.
It's amazing.
And then the horse responds to the you that you can't even respond to or see.
Yes.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
So sometimes having things like that to help us, I think the main work is actually identifying that is me, that is not me, that is me, that is not me, that is me, that is not me.
So I think if you're doing that, you'll go crazy. You'll go crazy. And this is not about going crazy. It's about enjoying life.
I'm not saying going crazy. I'm not saying the whole day you're thinking like that.
Not me.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you think you want something, but how do you know? How
do you know what it is? So one of the ways.
You're making it sound very simple in terms of you're gonna make a lot of money. There's a whole lot of that exists here.
So one of the telltale signs, one of the quick ways of identifying if it's you or not you, is if you want more. Anytime you want more activity, something else, more accolades, more experience, more movement, you know it's your ego. The ego, by definition, always wants more. The essential self, the deeper self, is at a state of resonance. That's one of the identities. That's one of the ways of identifying. You want to say something? Before you do, let me say one more thing. Another way is to bring yourself back into your body. Sit there or stand there and consciously bring yourself back into your body. Feel the vitality that's in your body. And then once you're there, present in your body, present without thinking about anything, just present in your body, then ask, is there anything that I need? Is this the right thing that I need to do? So like, you get something that really upsets you. So the immediate response, you want to lash out. Bring yourself back into your body. Back into your body. Back into your body and realize, one second, I'm still there. The essential self is still there. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. The world can be falling apart and nothing has changed. Once you've got that bing, then now re-engage. Now see what I need to do in this moment. Okay, these are sensitivities, these are muscles that need to be built up, and it's not one fix, it's not one way of identifying. It's, you have to marinate yourself in many aspects of boundaries, expansion. And you have to, get a feel for who you are. This is it, just like kids take time to walk and people take time to learn how to drive, you need to learn, and it takes you time to identify who you essentially are. But even that journey itself is beautiful. It's not a serious journey. It's not a journey of depression and angst and anger. It's beautiful. And when you're unconscious, you're consciously unconscious. And when you have moments of consciousness, be careful not to be like, oh wow, I'm conscious. Now I feel a sense of who I am, and now I've got it, and now I'm holding on to it, and now it's just become egoic. So it's very, very unique. It's constantly moving, and it's constantly, but there's a number of things you bring in, and there's a number of sensitivities that starts with just being conscious of when you're unconscious and conscious. Sensitizing yourself to exist in your body. Being aware that there is an unsatiable reality that people buy into, and we buy into sometimes, and sometimes feeding it, understanding that it needs to be fed sometimes. So there are many things, yeah? Sorry I didn't give you a conclusive answer, but that's how it is. Yeah, okay? Adam?
So, because you kind of started off by saying about the two different, this vertical and horizontal, is it just sort of having balance between the two? Or is it just being more aware of the horizontal, know when you're doing it, know why you're doing it? It's okay to do it, but ultimately you want to go back to your true self.
So this is a science. This is a science. Just like any experiment is a science, and this is a science. So essentially there are boundaries when they are too much stepped over, you will find it very hard to expand vertically, almost impossible. So this is a science, but what I would encourage is in your own life, identify the boundaries you need to put in. What I do personally, and I can't speak, for you, but personally, the way I engage with my life, not to say I'm perfect in any way and that I'm conscious, if I can stay conscious at moments and really bring that consciousness, but it does alleviate a lot. It alleviates a lot of pressure. But the way I do it, and I'm a rabbi, but the way that I do it is that I understand that the boundaries that I have around me, what I can or can't eat. So when I go to the new bar, the silo gym, I have to look at what's vegan instead of taking whatever I want. But there are a lot of vegan options. When I go and, I don't look at everything. If I'm looking at Netflix or I'm watching something or in the gym, I don't look at everything. I have to limit my vision. But I understand that what I'm engaging with is healthy expansion. This is not the place I need to expand. I'm sorry. I'm doing myself harm. I love this example. I always bring it, and I've said this about 1,000 times in the past week, but I think it's the most beautiful analogy, and I'll end off with it. the guys have heard it have to forgive me. But there's an analogy brought of an individual that's in the winter snow, and they are extremely cold, and they think to themselves, gosh, what do I need to do to make myself cold? And they think, I know what to do. I'll piss in my pants. I'll urinate. And that urine is hot, velvet feeling, beautiful. I know from experience now. Warm. But a couple of seconds later, you're smelly, you're sticky, it's cold, it's just like you messed yourself up. So now identify what are the forms of expansion horizontally. Are they really worth it? Are they really worth it? Or are they going to really undermine essentially who you are? And if you want me to boil down what the Torah is all about, it's essentially that. What are healthy forms of expansion? But they are just boundaries. That's not what it's about. It's not the boundaries. It's about how can I expand? Gewalt, how can I find my inner self, my deeper self? That life is not this constant pressure. That I'm connected. I resonate with life. That's what it's all about, essentially. So there are guidelines. You know, the more you can integrate those guidelines, you don't want to, then find personal guidelines that you maybe want to integrate in, and then find a balance. Yeah, it is about a balance. All right, guys.
Can I ask?
Yes. One more question.
The exercise thing again.
Exercise, yes, very important.
So exercise is kind of a way to use the horizontal expansion. You kind of utilize it, and then if you do it properly, then get to the vertical.
So it's a mix. Exercise is like a hybrid between vertical and horizontal expansion, because part and parcel in your exercise is the need to push yourself beyond yourself. So by definition, you go above yourself. You experience something beyond yourself. It's a sense of expanding vertically. So with integrating a taste of that, you have a bit of a taste of that, you can then bring yourself easier into a spiritual vertical expansion. So after you have a proper workout, you'll find it much easier to meditate. It's the most amazing concept. Once you have a proper workout, you'll be able to meditate easier. Why? Because you've pushed yourself outside of yourself. It's an amazing, amazing concept. You know? That's why I'm saying we should really do yoga before we do chakras in the morning. Sure.
I can really relate to it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I had the best experience when I lived in Tel Aviv. It was a really good yoga studio, both of them. And after that, you feel like some sort of... I literally did a vipassana when we laying on the floor.
Yeah.
And I felt like I'm flying. I'm telling you, I felt like I'm literally...
100%, yeah.
Really, really high. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
Really
That's what it is. And sitting down to read something and learning is going beyond yourself.
Yeah.
And doing an act, you know, putting on tefillin. I don't usually bring religion into this because I think it's dangerous. Because I don't want to put heaviness into it where it shouldn't be. But I'm giving you another example to just respin, recolor, reframe what this is all about. Putting on tefillin. That's an act of expansion vertically. It is completely not egoic. What are you doing? You know, I'm doing something because, you know, so that's what it's slowly getting you into. Yoga, chesed, giving, all these forms of expansion are very healthy. Start integrating them and you'll see the pressures of your life start to subside.